Yo, people, what is good? Welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I've been here. I hope my internet is holding up. I really do because I'm not seeing anyone say anything. Let me know if my internet is working fine. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can't hear me. Please let me know, because if you don't let me know, I'm just going to keep babbling on and act as if nothing is up. But yeah, people, welcome back. Welcome back. It's not been pleasant. It's not been a pleasant time away from YouTubing, I must say. I think the last stream I did was probably when Conte got sacked. I think it was a Sunday. That was the last stream I did when Conte got sacked. I think probably like what 4 weeks ago. Um, so yeah, it's been it's been I don't even know how to describe it. It's been a mess. It's been a big mess from the timing of when he got sacked, i.e., like how long it took to sack him, the replacements, the results, the injuries. It's just been a complete shambles. It's been an utter shambles. Only way I could put Spurs, really. Spurs are a shambles. They're just a really woeful side. Um, Couple of requests for me as well. As you come in, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. I think I said thanks in my last two videos, but I'm going to say thank you again for you guys, or to you guys, for getting me to 13K. Thank you. I appreciate it. I wish that I would have hit 13K under better circumstances for the club, but listen, I don't control what Levy and Conte and the players do. So, yeah, thank you, appreciate it. And as I said, if you could help me with your continued support, that would be great. Smash the like button or hit the subscribe button. Um, yeah, it's been a mess, man. It's been a complete mess. Before I actually get into my agenda, because I actually have an agenda today, I'm just going to go through some comments as well. Thank you guys for liking the video as well. Let me just go through. Obviously, there's a lot of trolling. People asking me what am I drinking. I'm drinking green tea. EAA says don't go anywhere. Changing the time won't stop the cooking, brother. I changed the time because it wasn't convenient for me yesterday. Yeah, nobody cooks Spurs more than me, and I'm a Spurs fan. So yeah. Sue says, Tobes, what's going on at your club? Boy, well, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Um, Owen Neal says, saw pundits ask why Stellini hasn't changed anything. He's the assistant to Conte. Did they expect a major difference? I said this 3 months ago when he was winning those games, when he was winning those home games. I said he's doing nothing different to Conte. There is literally no difference to Conte. But no, I was told all my days, oh no, he's changed this, he's his own man, he's this, he's that, and the third. I think because Conte was so toxic, right? Because Conte was so toxic at the end of his tenure as a person, it was just a negative influence on the dressing room. But it let people take away from the fact that tactically he is far greater than what we've now managed to get ourselves in with. But that's Spurs for you. That's Spurs for you. Sack a manager because his methods aren't working, and then you put in his number two who's going to adopt the exact same methods. Does it make sense to you? Anyway, let me get into my agenda, man. Let me get into my agenda. People saying hold that, Toes, blah blah blah. Yeah, I will hold it. Losing to Bournemouth at home is an absolute disgrace. I don't care what anyone tells me. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. I remember even when we went life and death with them in the away game. I was in Greece. I was on holiday, and I remember saying the following week on the Big Six or whenever it was, how disgraceful I felt at that result. Like it was a win, but it was a nasty win. Going life and death with a team that you really should be beating comfortably. And the same goes with yesterday. You cannot be losing to Bournemouth at home. You just can't. It's embarrassing. It's utterly embarrassing. Big up to Bournemouth. They came with a game plan and they were brave. They were brave. And they were full value for 3 points. But I'm reflecting on how Tottenham played and how we played. It's just not on. For me, this season is now it's become the 2021 season with Jose. The only difference I see now between this season and that season is we've got a stimulus package. We've got a better squad than we did at the time in which the wheels fell off with Jose, and fans are allowed in the ground. But when I'm looking at the results, the football being served up, the amount of players that are out of form, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You've even got the manager sacking in March or April to boot as well. It's the same damn thing. It's a mess. It's a mess. But even let me just recap on the Bournemouth game because I did unfortunately watch 90 minutes of that. Right. I'm a bit of a hypocrite in this regard because I always say to myself, I don't care about Spurs. I don't care about Spurs. And even when I don't go to these matches, it's very hard to sort of detach from Tottenham. So I'm always, if I'm at home, I'm gonna put it on, and I put it on. I put it on. I wasn't even at home. I was watching it on my phone, and what I saw was just yet another chaotic game, and it's the usual pattern these days. A lot of absolutely insane errors to shoot ourselves in the foot. Atrocious build up from the back. Um, Only attacking in fleeting spells. So we take the lead early and sit back, similar to what we did against Brighton. Like I think Bournemouth had more possession than Spurs yesterday. If let me even bring up these stats. 1 second. No, sorry. In the end, it finished 57% possession to Spurs, 43% to Bournemouth. But I can imagine that it swung in our favour in the closer stages of that match, where we basically switched shape and Bournemouth were defending a 2-1 lead. But for the most part, in the first half, they had 53% possession. I'm willing to put to put a lot on the possession stats only swaying around the period in which Richarlison came on, where we actually completely changed the shape. But with Spurs, it's much of the same, man. It's much of the same this season. We give teams life. We don't smell blood. We don't kill games off. If I compare us to where we were at this stage last year, we were picking teams off, scoring at will, and we were actually keeping teams out. You couldn't give Spurs an inch, because if you give us an inch, we'll take them out and we'll end the game for you as a contest. This season is the complete opposite. We are so toothless. We are so blunt creatively. And when we take an early initiative, we don't build on our initiative. We don't build on our lead. It just falls to the wayside because we just retreat. And the manager comes out, Conte came out and said it. Even Jose came out and said it. Stellini come out and said it. I don't know. I can't remember if Nuno said it, but like these managers are saying they're not telling these guys to sit off. And part of me believes them. Part of me believes this is true. But at the same time, when you set your team up in a certain way, it invites that pressure. When you prioritize the weakest part of your team instead of the strongest part of your team, it invites that pressure. When you lose a centre back in the 35th minute or whenever it was when Longley got injured, and your next substitution is to bring on another centre back, when you're playing Bournemouth at home and you can see that they are putting pressure on you, they're pinning you back, and your instinct is to bring on another defender, you have no right to talk about how you don't want these players to sit back, because in your head, you're telling them that, yes, this is the tactic. Bring them in, suck them in, and then you hit them on the break. You heard Gary O'Neill's interview. He said that Spurs play like the away team. He said that Spurs played like the away team. All we wanted to do was just counter. We had no business in actually controlling that game of football. We had no business in controlling that game of football. And that is down to the manager and the players on the pitch. It's not just Stellini. We have madmen that just want to turn over possession for no reason. We have guys that want to dribble into danger instead of just clearing your lines. We have guys that treat the ball like a hot potato and don't want to build play properly. We have a front line that just don't press. They don't press. They don't put pressure on the opposition when they're building up from the back. We don't have a midfield that squeeze. We don't set traps. We don't do anything. All we do is give teams encouragement. Even when we're winning, we give teams encouragement. Yeah. There's not a single team I can remember Spurs playing this season where I felt that in parts of the game, they've not been given life. Even the games we've gone on to win emphatically. Even Palace. I remember Crystal Palace, we won 4-0, but the first half, we gave them so much life. We gave them so much life, and we were fortunate to go into that half 0-0. We were fortunate. This season, it's the constant theme. Mistakes, progressively worse chance creation, surrendering possession, and just looking like an inferior team. I couldn't even name you Bournemouth's full starting 11. I couldn't. Genuinely, I could not. And I'd like to think that I know a fair bit about Premier League football. I couldn't name you their entire starting 11. I can tell you how they're going to play, but I couldn't name you the entire starting 11. And it's no disrespect to Bournemouth. Genuinely, it's not. Because I've already said repeatedly, Bournemouth were good value for the win. They're fighting for relegation, and they came here with a plan, and they executed it well. They did. And they were brave. But that's the key component. They were brave. They don't have a Harry Kane. They don't have a Romero. They don't have a Kulusevski. They don't even have a Højbjerg, who's pants. They don't even have a Højbjerg. They don't have any of these players. And yet they came here with the intention to win. Can you say Spurs played with the intention to win for the full 90 minutes? No, you can't. No, you can't. This team only act like there's something to play for when the game is out of their control. It's embarrassing, man. It's utterly embarrassing. And it's a never-ending cycle this season. It's a never-ending cycle. And I feel like it puts to bed for me. I've been saying this for months now. Since January, top four, done. I don't believe Spurs are getting top four. People told me we're in the race. Yeah, of course we're in the race. Of course we're in the race. But I don't have the belief that this team are going to go ahead and get top four. I didn't have that belief under Conte. And now I'm doubling down, and it's even worse with Stellini in the dugout. Spurs have categorically no chance of finishing top four with the way they're playing. Impossible. In 2 of the last 3 match days, Newcastle have dropped points and Man United have dropped points. 2 weeks ago, Newcastle humiliated Man United at St. James Park. Spurs had the opportunity to go third. What do? They go to Everton Everton, they go 1-0 up despite playing poorly, right? And they're playing against 10 men. They're playing against 10 men. You see what I mean about being brave, about not giving teams life? They're playing against 10 men and they somehow failed to win that game. A couple weeks before that, when Conte was still in the job, 3-1 up at home. No, sorry, 3-1 up away to Southampton, bottom of the league. You have an opportunity to gain ground on the top 4 race. The game ends 3-3. Bournemouth, yesterday, Newcastle had lost 3-0 to Aston Villa. That opened up an opportunity for you to close the gap on Newcastle. You could have closed the gap on Newcastle to 3 points. Let me even check the table. Let me check this table quickly, right? No. Spurs could have gone level on points with Newcastle. Sorry, my bad. We could have gone level on points with Newcastle. Obviously, with a game, with one extra game played. You could have gone level on points to Newcastle. And yes, I was always expecting Spurs to lose at Newcastle next week. But what a win yesterday would have done is it would have put more pressure on Newcastle. It would have made next week's fixture more significant. I mean, it is still significant. It's a top four clash. But you could have had the opportunity. You could have had the opportunity to go to next week with an opportunity to go above Newcastle. Because even if we go level on points, our goal difference is inferior to Newcastle, right? But had you gone level on points yesterday, you could have gone to St. James Park with an opportunity to finally get back on top of Newcastle. And they didn't do it. They didn't do it. They dropped points. They dropped points to Bournemouth. To Bournemouth. I want people to deep how disastrous of a result this is. Because we can all talk about bantering Spurs, blah, blah, blah. But this is terrible. This is an absolutely shocking result. To compound the terrible result they got against a 10-man Newcastle, 10-man Everton. This is a catastrophic result. Because of what you could have done with a win here and what this represents. You can't even beat Bournemouth at home now. We can't even beat Bournemouth at home after you caught life against Brighton last week. Brighton should have beat you. Brighton should have beat us, sorry. They should have won. They should have won. They should have won last week. You didn't learn your lesson. Yeah? You didn't learn your lesson. People can come in here, put their control. But I'm having serious chat here. That is a diabolical result. That is a result from the pits of hell. That is an absolutely shocking result. The stick I gave to the likes of Matisse for losing at home to Southampton, Grizz losing away to Bournemouth, this is worse. This is worse. This is worse. You were winning. You were winning. You pegged them back 2-2. You had the opportunity to go 3-2. And you lose the game. You lose the game at home in the last minute of stoppage time. This is an absolutely disgraceful result. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This is a disgraceful result. And it is a living embodiment of what it means to be a Spurs fan this season. They are a disgrace. Terrible performances, horrible mistakes in the game, shocking in-game management from the manager, shocking game management from the players, shocking decisions all over the gaff, underperforming players, and constantly giving the opposition life. They're a shambles of an outfit. They are terrible. They are absolutely terrible. This team, they're crap. They're crap. And I don't mean personnel, man for man, they're crap. Although there are so many bad players in this team. As a unit, they are rubbish. They don't have an idea. They don't know how to attack. They don't know how to keep the ball. They don't know how to defend. They are clueless out there. They're terrible. And it's like the blind leading the blind with Stellini. They're terrible. Absolutely terrible. Spurs are better than this. Spurs are better than this. But boy, it doesn't look like it at the moment. The way some of these players are playing, the way the manager sets this team up, it doesn't look like it. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. So yeah, don't talk to me about no top four. I don't care. Spurs could be third for all I care in the next 2-3 weeks. I'm still gonna say no. This team are not finishing top four. No. They're not finishing top four. 2 out of a possible 9 points taken from Southampton, Everton, and Bournemouth. I understand that these guys are fighting for their lives at the bottom. I understand it. Premier League survival is paramount. But with the players at our disposal, with the positions we put ourselves in these matches, to only get 2 out of 9 points is an absolute disgrace. It is a disgrace. It's an abomination. And it doesn't bode well at all when it comes to speaking about the fixtures that are still left to play. Because this was meant to be a favourable run. This was meant to be, believe it or not, people, this was meant to be a favourable run. This was meant to be a favourable run. The plan was, oh, you pick up your points here and you put yourself in good stead for the tough games to come. No. No, Spurs are chilling in 5th. Spurs are chilling in 5th. Aston Villa are now 3 points behind us. That's crazy. I said to Rich, Aston Villa fan, he's got Aston Villa fan channel. I said to Rich on a stream a couple of weeks back that Aston Villa aren't getting Europe. I just dismissed them because I just thought nothing of it. They're 3 points behind Tottenham. That's mental. They're 3 points behind Spurs. Don't get it twisted. They got some tough fixtures. They still got us to play at home. But when you look at how they played yesterday against Newcastle at home, how aggressive they were against Newcastle, what are they going to do to Spurs? I think Newcastle still have the best defensive record in the league, and they got torn apart. What do you think Aston Villa are going to do to Spurs? Brighton, they're 4 points behind Spurs, 2 games in hand. Liverpool, to be fair, Liverpool aren't getting top 4, but Liverpool are 9 points behind Spurs, but with 2 games in hand. Forget about top 4. It's done. It's done. It's done. It may not be done mathematically, but in my head, it's done. It's been done months ago. Because psychologically, it's over. This team don't actually believe that they can get top 4. And you know what? Good. The way they've played this season, they don't deserve top 4. They're not good enough. They showed that in the Champions League with their performances. They're not good enough. It's my fault for thinking that this is a top 4 side. They're not. They're not good enough. They've proven that all too many times this season. They're better than this, though. They should be able to beat Bournemouth at home. They should be able to beat Everton away. They're better than that. But when it comes to being a good side, pound for pound, they're not. They're a mess. They're embarrassing. Newcastle away next week, Sunday. Man United following Thursday at home. Anfield the following Sunday after that. Mate, Spurs are going to get plastered. The way we're playing, I wouldn't even be shocked if Spurs drop down to 7th. By the end of that Liverpool fixture, in fact, I'm probably expecting Spurs to be around 7th or 8th because I think it's going to be 3 straight losses. And I feel like on top of Bournemouth, it will be 4 straight losses. Newcastle next week is a must-win game. Spurs have the players to go there and maybe get something off Newcastle, but they also have players that can go there and make it a horrible day for Spurs. They have players that can go there and make it a terrible day for Spurs. So for me, that's a loss. That's automatically a loss. That's a loss. They've only lost, what, one game there all season? And that was to Liverpool. They're beating Spurs. They got the bit between their teeth. Yes, yesterday was a blip, but they've got the bit between their teeth. They actually have belief in what they're doing. They have success in what they're doing. They have a set way of playing that works. They can keep teams out and they attack well. Yeah, they don't give you the impetus you need at their ground. They don't give you encouragement. They dampen encouragement because that's what good teams are meant to do. They're meant to dampen the away team's encouragement in a game of football. They're going to beat Tottenham, and they're going to beat Tottenham comprehensively. Man United at home, even still, I don't know what's going to happen there. Something inside me is telling me that we can get a result against United. But in all honesty, with the way Stellini's got Spurs set up, I'm not going to put money on it. That one, I could easily see a loss. And Anfield, I don't care how poor Liverpool are. Spurs have won, what, twice at Anfield in like 30, 35, 30-something years. It's not going to be 3 times this season. It's not going to be 3 times this season. That is a straight loss. In fact, that might be a humiliation. That might be a slaughterhouse. And you've seen how bad Liverpool are this season. So that's saying something. That's saying a lot. Let me go through the super chat as well. Sorry, bro. I missed your super chat. So big up JJ Ash for the super chat. He says, Tobes, you have to now acknowledge that Spurs are a social experiment rather than an actual football club. It's not a manager problem. It's just being Spurs, bro. Yeah, I mean, that's an oversimplification, but I actually agree. It's just the history. Like, it's the history. Chiellini, I hate his guts, but what leg do we have to stand on when people talk about Spurs and the mentality? Spurs being Nelly men, Spurs being bottlers. There's no leg to stand on. There's no leg to stand on. I know what we are. I know what we are. But yeah, I can see 3 straight losses with maybe some respite potentially in the United game. People in the comments saying, why United? United are better than Spurs this season. We have some better players than them in parts, but as a unit, they're much better than Spurs this season. And they're not even that good. They're not even all that. So what does that tell you about Spurs in the way we've been set up and some of the players in our squad? Yeah. I think the thing that goes against United that works in our favour is even though we've got injuries, they got worse injuries. I feel like even though Casemiro is going to be back, Martial's going to be back, Rashford might be out, their top scorer this season. That's huge. And Varane and Martinez, their 2 best centre-backs this season, are injured. So going up against Maguire and Lindelof, for me, completely changes things for United. It brings them much lower. It does. So that's the only respite potentially I can see Spurs getting here. And even that is a reach. Because as you've seen, as poor as Man United can be or have been in recent weeks, where are they in the table in comparison to Spurs? Where are they in the table in comparison to Spurs? 3 points ahead of us with 2 games in hand. What does that have to say about Spurs? Anyway, Stellini. Let's talk about Stellini quickly because I think Stellini perfectly encapsulates the incompetence of this football club. You could see that something wasn't working under Conte, but you believe that it will work under his number two, who is nowhere near as good a manager and hasn't got the experience or pedigree, with a rookie as his assistant. There's no foresight with this club. There's no proactivity with this club. Any sensible club would have sacked Conte back in January when the transfer window was open and it was more enticing to bring in a new manager, to say, hey, look, hey, new manager, whether it's an interim manager or a permanent manager, hey, look, we've still got a squad that you can work with, and we're willing to buy one or two players that you need to get through this season and look ahead to next season. Or you could have sacked Conte in February when Spurs were still in the FA Cup, still had Champions League to play for, and were still literally in fourth spot. These are things that you could have done to entice a competent interim or permanent solution. They didn't do either. They waited and waited and waited and waited until there was like 10 games to play where it looks like Spurs are still in the top four race, but the belief is gone to sack Conte. Which top manager is going to come and take this job now? Right at the end of the season. Which clubs are going to let their managers go right at the end of the season? It's clueless. And then when you look at Stellini, the way he's managing as well, like, I don't hate Stellini, but I've never, ever, ever had belief in Stellini to do a good job at Spurs. I had belief that he could do a better job than Mason, maybe, yeah. But him being a good manager, I've always laughed it off. Always. Even when he was winning earlier on in the year, when he got those wins, the clean sheets, I've never bought into the hype. You can go check all my videos in the past. I've never bought into the hype because he was not doing anything different to Conte. People were praising this guy for setting up the team in the exact same way Conte did. The exact same way. The only difference was that he's just not as toxic an individual as Conte. But he also doesn't have the edge that Conte has. He can't galvanize the team like Conte can. He's literally Conte's number two for a reason. And it shows in his setup, in his substitutions, in his in-game approach. His substitutions are clueless. He doesn't change the lineup similar to Conte. All of the issues we had with Conte, they've not gone. Apart from Conte being vocal in press conferences, every single issue we've had in the way Conte sets up his team, they're still apparent because Stellini is still adopting the exact same methods, the exact same personnel. They're still here. So you see how stupid that is, right? From the club. You see how clueless this is. It even got me to the point where I was even contemplating mates rates. Oh, just for the sake of change between now and the end of the season, I was contemplating mates rates. And even he's a shambles as our full-time manager between now and the end of the season. It's a mess. It's a mess. And they actually thought something would change. Genuinely, they thought something would change with Stellini. These are the custodians of our football club. They thought something would change with Stellini. Mental. But I want to switch it onto the players and keep the focus on Stellini as well, because I feel like it's appropriate, right? I spoke about the team, unchanged lineup again. Højbjerg starts again. Kulusevski starts again, right? His hands are tied with Perisic and Porro because we have no more fit fullbacks available. However, you could go to a back four. You don't have to play Perisic. You don't have to play Perisic. Or you play Perisic left back. Or you play Longley left back. Or you play Tanganga as a fullback. If you don't have the belief in Porro and Perisic to play outside of the wing back roles. But they don't really attack under this setup. It's just It's just clueless. The exact same team, the exact same lineup, as if nothing's happened, and you just expect something to change. What's that saying? They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. What did you expect? What did you expect? But I want to stick on Stellini because I want to talk about one player. I want to talk about Davinson Sanchez. Now, this conversation, you can look at it from multiple angles. But one thing we're not going to do is we're not going to pretend as if there's no justification for why fans were booing Davinson Sanchez. Davinson Sanchez is a terrible centre-back. He's not good enough for Tottenham. And he literally proves this every single time he starts or comes on the pitch for Spurs. He incites panic, he's awful on the ball, and his reading of the game defensively is scary. I used to really like Davinson Sanchez when he first came to the club. I gave him allowances, but we've been watching this now so he signed in 2017. We've been watching this coming up to 6 years. So it's fair to say that we're a pretty good judge of character. The guy is awful. And everyone can see that as a common individual, apart from the people inside the club, the people that choose to keep him, and the people that choose to play him. Right? He's not good enough. In fact, he is so far from the standard. It is unreal. He is terrible. So when fans are moaning, they're moaning not solely at the individual, right? Because it's easy for people who are sat on Twitter to say, oh, it's horrible that fans boo, etc., etc., etc. But when you're at the game, and you're watching that live with the money that you've paid, you earn the right as a match-going fan to voice your frustrations. I don't agree with singling out one player for boos. I also agree that Davinson Sanchez was scapegoated. And I don't mean he was scapegoated because he didn't do anything wrong. He was scapegoated because he wasn't the only bad performer. But one thing we're going to clear the air with was that he was a bad performer on the day. It's no coincidence that when he came on, what was an already difficult situation, despite being 1-0 up, became an even more difficult situation. It's no coincidence that when he comes on or starts, the panic goes from 60% to 90%. These things are true because he is just that type of player. But from a fan perspective, you have every right to voice your frustration at a player who is messing up basic actions on the football pitch. And more on that, you have every right to voice your frustration at the manager. Because I think that's what it is. Like, there are some fans who I do think scapegoat Davinson Sanchez and treat him unfairly and make it out as if he's the sole reason why Spurs lost. He wasn't the main reason why Spurs lost. He wasn't even the worst performer yesterday. But he was one of the worst performers. And when you see a player who is so clearly below the standard, and you have an opportunity to change shape, and the manager brings on the player that is so below the standard, instead of changing the shape, you're going to be angry. You're going to be angry. So I get it. I completely get it. However, I don't like Davinson Sanchez being singled out as if to say he's the reason why Spurs lost, or he's the only reason why Spurs lost. It's not all on him. Yeah. He was one of many poor performances. Pedro was the worst performer on the day. Pedro is a bad defender. From what I'm seeing, he's a bad defender. I don't think he's been bad for Spurs. He looks a good technician. I saw a lot of good crosses yesterday. Unfortunately, no one was able to capitalize. I see a guy who can pass the ball. I see a guy who's not afraid to take on his man and get into good positions. I see a guy with very good first touch. But these are actions on the ball. Off the ball, I've not seen anything good from Pedro Porro. And I don't mean that he's been bad in every game he's played defensively. I mean that from what I see, he's not a good defender. And yesterday, he was the worst performer on the day. If you look at the first goal as well, I think there's so many guilty parties involved. Davinson Sanchez completely gets the ball stuck under his foot, miscontrols it, which already sets back Pedro Porro. So Pedro Porro's already made a run. The ball should have been released to him already, but no. Because Davinson Sanchez miscontrols it because he's not good enough, it sets Porro back. So he has to come back, which already closes the options he has when he receives the ball. However, when he received the ball, he still had plenty of time to find another person. I can get not giving it back to Sanchez because he's worried. He's worried. If I give it back, he's probably thinking, if I give it back to this guy, you've got Bournemouth players who are ready to press him, and he looks like he can make an error. So I can understand that. But what I can't understand is why he would then dribble into the danger zone. Why are you dribbling the infield when you can see there's 2 free players there ready to press you? There's a trap there set for you. Clear your lines or switch to the other side of the pitch. No, you run into danger, we lose the ball, they score. For me, whilst Davinson Sanchez is culpable in that action leading up to the first goal, the lion's share of the blame goes to Pedro Porro. It's stupid to go infield. It's stupid. Right? It's dumb. I don't need to explain what Sanchez did for the second goal. That's just him. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. But then I can also speak on Romero being careless with the ball in the second half. I can speak on Eric Dyer literally watching guys just run past him, not engaging. 2, 3, 4 times I'm seeing this guy with his hands behind his back. He's just standing there like a statue. Go and engage. Højbjerg. How many times did I say his name? 3 times. I'm denying this guy the way Peter denied Jesus. 3 times. I'm doing it because I cannot back this guy anymore. I'm now denying him. I'm denying that I was a fan of this guy. I cannot do it anymore. The guy is crap. I'm done. The guy is crap. When Bentancur isn't in this team, this guy is horrible. This guy is horrible. Absolutely horrible. This guy's horrible. He's been playing so bad since the restart. He's been playing even before the World Cup. His form was dipping because he had a really good start to the season. He did. And yes, he's scored some big goals this year. He's created some assists, etc., etc. But this guy's performances are scary. And he never gets dropped. So I've mentioned Porro and Højbjerg. These are 2 performers that were worse than Sanchez on the day. Sanchez was only on the pitch for like 15, 16 minutes cumulatively. I get it. He did his damage because he's poor. But these guys played for 90 minutes. Højbjerg played for 90 minutes. This guy gets bypassed so easily. He presses like a lunatic. He barely gets the ball. He's like a child when it comes to playing football, which doesn't make sense. Because when you hear this guy speak, he speaks so well. The reason why I liked Højbjerg is because he carried himself well off the pitch. When you hear his post-match interviews, he says the right things. He seems like he's switched on. He analyzes what Spurs did wrong, what we need to do to get better. And I feel like he's critical of his own performances as well. But what I can't understand is why he can't apply this knowledge and logic when he plays on a football pitch. When he's on the ball, he's so slow to release it, right? He puts himself in awkward positions when it comes to receiving the ball. Always waving his hands, pointing, waving your hands. What are you waving your hands for? What are you shouting for? Brother, play football. Play football. For me, he's meant to be one of the most progressive passers in our team, which tells you that we are in dire straits. I've been screaming for years about a pass master in the midfield, a pass master, a creative player, someone who can open up the game automatically with their passing. Højbjerg is probably the only midfielder in our team who makes those riskier progressive passes. Yeah, I think Bentancur, when he's in the middle of the pitch, I think he's good at progressing play with the short 5-10 yard passes. But I'm talking 20-30 yard passes that open up a game of football. I don't see many of our midfielders make those passes into the final third. I've seen Højbjerg do it on occasion. But the point I'm making is you have the quality to do that here and there, and you don't do it enough. You don't do it enough. Defensively, he's like a kid in a sweet shop. You can sell anything to this guy. You can sell anything to this guy and he'll buy it. Oh, I'm going to body feint left, but I'm going to go right. Yeah, he'll buy it. Yeah, I'm right-footed. I'm coming in on the left-hand side. I want to check in on my right foot, and you're going to let me do it. Because why? He gets sold too easily. Ouattara yesterday, he's right-footed. He's right-footed. He's inside the box. What foot do you think he wants to shoot with? He obviously wants to come back on his right. Please shepherd him outside the box. Close off his angle to shoot on his stronger foot. But no, Højbjerg can't see that he's going to top. The same thing against Southampton. The same thing against Brighton with Danny Welbeck. I've lost count of the amount of times this guy gets sent to the sweet shot. I've lost count. I've lost count. Horrible. So when fans were booing Sanchez, right, you have a right to be aggrieved because Davinson Sanchez has just come and he's just made a chaotic situation 10 times worse because he's a terrible footballer and a terrible defender. He is, right? But he was not the only one that deserved to be booed. The whole team, and I get it, the team were booed at full time as well, but the whole team deserved that treatment. If you're going to do it to one, do it to all. Do it to all. It wasn't just fair on him because why were they not booing Højbjerg's every touch? He was diabolical. Why were they not booing Pedro's every touch? He was diabolical. Why were they not booing Kulusevski's every touch? He was pants. Why were they not booing Harry Kane's every touch? He was bad. Harry Kane's meant to be our best player. He was bad yesterday. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. He was bad. Lloris, poor. So many bad performances yesterday. So if you're going to do it for one, do it for all. Or don't do it at all. Anyway. I'm all for fans voicing their opinions. Boo Stellini. Boo the manager. Don't boo Sanchez. Or better yet, why am I saying don't boo Sanchez? Don't just single out Sanchez for booing. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you're going to do it for all the players who were performing at the level he performed at. Or do it towards the manager who brought him on. Because I blame Stellini. There was no need to bring on Sanchez. The thing that Stellini did after bringing on Sanchez is what he should have done to begin with. But he was too cowardly to do that. Wanted to keep the same dead shape that wasn't working. So many poor performers. So many poor performers. It's poor. It's poor. I just think with Spurs, it's busted, man. It's busted. Richarlison, absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Completely shamed me. Completely shamed me. Like I've made no secret of the fact that I like this guy. Like I've not put him on a crazy pedestal. I've not said that this guy is world class. I've just said, yo, you're a good player. You're going to deliver. You're going to do your thing. and you've done the exact opposite. I'm actually starting to hate seeing his stupid strops, his stupid nothing performances. I'm sick of it now. There's only so many times I can lament how unfortunate you've been. There's only so many times I can do it. There's only so many times I can talk about your lack of minutes. I can talk about your injuries. I can talk about not being played in the best position. I can talk about not getting chances. All of these things are true. All of these things are true. He's not been given a fair shake. But you cost 60 million. Yeah? I don't make the rules. You cost 60 million. You have to do something. You just have to. Danjuma has played like a tenth of your minutes and has your goal tally for the season. You have to do something. You had the opportunity to win the game of football and you miss a point-blank header. Like how? Ain't heading meant to be his meat and drink? Ain't he meant to be sick at headers? It's enough. Absolute bust. Absolute flop. Humongous flop this season. Humongous flop. His season's been a write-off since about probably since that which injury was it? Yeah, since about January. I can't remember. He picked up another injury. The season's been done, man. Bust. Absolute bust. He could score 10 goals. It's not going to happen, but he could score 10 goals between now and the end of the season, and my opinion won't change any season. Until proven otherwise, he's a flop right now. You have to change the narrative. I still believe he's a good player. I don't just believe that you just turned crap out of nowhere, but he has been crap for Spurs this season. And until the performances improve, he's a flop. It's that simple. There's no ambiguity to it whatsoever. I don't believe Spurs are going to look to sell him this summer, but he might want to engineer a move away. I don't know what's going to happen. Whether you stay at Spurs or whether you go elsewhere, unless you change the narrative, this has been a huge fail. It's been a failure. It's been a failure. I'm seeing nothing when he comes on the pitch as well these days. At the start of the season, I was seeing stuff. Good things. I'm seeing jack squat when this guy comes on the football pitch. So many people want me to apologize, etc., etc. You can get your apologies. I'm sorry. Honestly, I ain't going to fight for guys who aren't going to fight for me in the club. I'm done with it, man. I'm done. I'm done defending men that aren't even putting in the work for the club. And it's not even just him, man. It's like players that I expect a lot from are just tanking. And I don't believe that these guys are bad players, but they're just, well, Højbjerg excluded because this is 3 years now. But Kulusevski's second half of the campaign, atrocious. Bad again yesterday. Bad. Pedro Porro, I didn't really know much on this guy. He looks a good technician. I'm not really gonna pull the plug so soon. New signing, but bruh, Romero, meant to be a really good player, meant to be a really good centre back, meant to be our best defender. Ain't playing like it. So many good players or players that I expected stuff from flopping. Even Basuma before his injury as well. Like again, another one in the Richarlison book where he's not been really given a fair shake from Conte. But even the performances he did have for Spurs, they were not good for the most part. They were actually really poor. Outside of maybe probably 5 or 6 games, they were really bad, really, really bad. So for me, a lot of players need to be held accountable for their own performances. But I also think as well, we've just been coached so badly this season. And I do believe that if we eradicate this squad of the players that are flat out anchors, the players that are anchors that have been here too long or are just not good enough, If we rip these guys out and keep the likes of your Kulusevskis, keep the likes of your Romeros with a new manager, build on them by buying new centre backs, better midfielders, play a different way, we'll get a better tune out of these players, man. We'll get a better tune out of these players. But for now, they need to be held accountable for their performances. They have to. They have to. Yeah. It's all good and well talking about the Dyers, the Sanchezes, the Tangangas. But when the better players, like your Kulusevskis, like your Romeros, like Kane's, when the trusted players like Højbjergs are messing up, they have to be held accountable as well. They have to. Big up to Dan Juma though, man. I feel sorry for the guy. I knew that what was going to happen, what has happened was going to happen. I knew it. He wasn't going to get game time. They literally brought this guy here to do Ramadan prop. That's literally it. And despite all that, he comes on the pitch with a positive mindset. And yesterday he made an impact. He made an impact. He scored, took his goal well on his weaker foot. Technique. He's a good player. He's a good player who should be starting more. I want to see him start against Newcastle. But you think no changes, Stellini's gonna make that call? No chance. No chance. No chance. And that adds to our issue as well. It's a bad moment now. It's a bad moment, and I feel like it's a bad moment where nothing is going right. So everyone's gonna have their pitchforks out for players. I'm even seeing people question whether we should buy Kulusevski. Like, that's mad to me. People are now questioning whether we should buy Kulusevski. Have you forgotten so early? But I get as ungrateful as that sounds from those people who are asking that. I can understand when things are so toxic. I get it. When things are so toxic, no one is good enough. But I promise people, these guys are good players. Some of these guys are good players, not all of them. Some of these men are good players, and with a better way of playing, with a clear way of playing, where players are put in positions where they can be the most influential, and the team is actually set up structurally well, or set up well in terms of its structure, in terms of how we build play, in terms of the profile centre backs we have at the back, in terms of our ability to press incorporate a high press. I'm telling you, these players will look better. They will. They actually will. But anyway, that's the end of this season's problem. And that's on the owners. My last point, that's on the owners. I heard the Levy out chance. Keep going. Keep going. These guys need to know that the way they are managing this club, it's not good enough. And whilst ENIC were not the ones that were responsible for Spurs losing to Bournemouth yesterday, they're responsible for the regression of this football club. They are. They absolutely are. And only they can set it right. They have to set it right with the right appointment. They have to set it right in their attitude when it comes to selling players that are not good enough. Your Dyers, your Sanchez's, your Højbjergs. Get rid of them. Make a judgment call on players like Perisic. Yeah? If you don't want to play a back five and you want to switch to a back four, get rid of him. Harry Kane, if he wants to leave in the summer and you get a good offer, be brave. The club will be mudded, but be brave. Change means change. I don't want to sell Harry Kane. I don't want Harry Kane to leave the club, but Spurs need to evolve because the way we're doing things now, it's not working. We need to build this team in a completely different way. We do. There are some players, there are a fair share of players that can still be retained that are salvageable. And I've mentioned them before. Kulusevski, Romero, Bentancur, Basuma, Udogie, Jed Spence, Oliver Skip, Papi Matar, Harry Kane if he stays. But you have to change the way you're going to play. You have to. Even Richarlison, as bad as he is. To be honest, actually, no, Richarlison, the jury's out. But you have to change. It will be so redundant if we bring in a new manager, right, and we keep the same players and we play the exact same way. You're going to see minimal uplift. We have to change. If it means that Son is no longer a starter, so be it. We have to change. Lloris, get rid. Get rid. Thank you for your service. It's done. We need to change. We need to change. And if it means a couple years in the doldrums, so be it. But let it be towards something. Let it be towards something. These guys need to cut, man. It's a shame. We're in a summer where we can potentially lose the best ever player we've had in terms of their performance in the Premier League. And we've got these guys as our custodians to potentially replace him and address the other holes in our team in the midfield and the defense. I don't trust these guys. I don't trust them to do the job. They're not fit to do the job, but we just have to hope and pray. We just have to hope and pray. But yeah, I'm not really expecting any positive with ENIC, but let's see. Let's see who they serve up with the manager. Let's see what happens with some of the decisions that they take in the summer. But as I said, we can't keep playing like this. We can't keep playing out from the back with goalkeepers who can't be comfortable in possession, defenders who can't be comfortable in possession, midfielders who aren't progressing the ball, attackers who don't really want to press. Something has to change. Anyway, people, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm on the road to 15K now. I'm sure there's Premier League football coming up at 2 p.m. today. Yeah. Enjoy your Sunday. When am I going to be back? I'm probably not going to get to watch the Newcastle game because I'm going to be supporting my mate who's running the London Marathon as well. So I'm actually going to tweet his donation link on my Twitter, and I'm going to put it on my YouTube page as well. So people, please donate if you can. It's for the Hemophilia Society. So I think it's around like people who have bleeding disorders. So yeah, please donate. Every little helps. But yeah, I'm not going to be around next Sunday. I expect a loss, and I'll be around on Monday to probably just talk about what I've been able to catch up on. But yeah, take care, people. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, big up, and enjoy your Sundays.